Rachel Reeves engulfed in financial scandal. Is she manipulating the tax system for personal gain? London, special report. In a shocking development that could shake the very foundations of the UK economy, Labour Party Chancellor Rachel Reeves is facing an unprecedented financial scandal following her controversial modifications to cash ISA regulations. Industry leaders, financial experts, and ordinary citizens alike have expressed outrage over these changes, which they fear could destabilise the housing market and impose crippling financial burdens on millions of Britons. Amid the growing controversy, leaked documents have raised even more serious concerns. Could Reeves be personally benefiting from these policy shifts? And if so, how deep does this financial rabbit hole go? Did you know that over 95% of our viewers aren't subscribed to the channel? We totally get it, life gets busy, and sometimes it's easy to forget. But here's the thing, subscribing is completely free, and it really helps us keep creating the content you enjoy. So, why not hit that subscribe button and join our community? It only takes a second, but it makes a world of difference to us. Thank you for your support. Ignored warnings. Did Reeves dismiss the advice of financial experts? Reports suggest that Rachel Reeves was explicitly warned by industry leaders that her proposed alterations to cash ISA regulations could have severe unintended consequences, including a significant rise in mortgage rates. Senior executives from building societies, which rely on customer deposits to fund mortgage lending, reportedly sent a formal letter to the Chancellor, urging her to reconsider the move. They warned that reducing the tax-free savings limit could have devastating effects on both homebuyers and savers. At the center of the controversy is Reeves' proposal to slash the annual cash ISA allowance from £20,000 to just £4,000. Critics argue that this drastic measure amounts to a direct assault on hard-working Britons, many of whom rely on tax-free savings to ensure their financial stability. Threatening the housing market. Economic analysts have warned that the consequences of this policy could be disastrous for the UK housing market. Richard Farron, CEO of Leeds Building Society, described the proposed cut as a reckless move, cautioning that it could destabilize the property sector and push millions into financial hardship. Susan Allen, CEO of Yorkshire Building Society, went even further, calling it a regressive step that would harm both savers and the housing market. Financial experts emphasized that building societies depend on ISA deposits to fund mortgage lending, meaning a drastic reduction in available funds could drive up mortgage rates. This would make homeownership even more unattainable for first-time buyers, exacerbating an already strained property market. A hidden agenda. Shocking allegations surface. As the financial implications of the policy become clearer, a far more troubling question has emerged: could Rachel Reeves be exploiting this crisis for personal gain? Leaked documents suggest that a portion of the additional tax revenue generated from these ISA changes could be discreetly diverted into discretionary government funds, funds over which Reeves exerts considerable influence. If these allegations prove true, it would represent one of the most serious financial scandals in recent British history. A 665% increase in tax revenue raises serious concerns. The timing of these tax changes has raised eyebrows among financial watchdogs. According to HM Treasury data, the projected tax revenue from savings interest will soar to £10.3 billion in the 2024-25 tax year, a staggering 665% increase from the £1.4 billion recorded in 2021-22. These figures raise fundamental ethical questions about the motives behind the Labour government's decision to extract even more tax from Britain's already struggling savers. Many are now demanding to know, why is Reeves so determined to squeeze more money from ordinary Britons? And why does her name keep appearing in reports regarding the management of these funds? Public fury mounts as Reeves dismisses criticism. Despite the growing backlash, Rachel Reeves appears resolute, brushing aside mounting criticism and legal challenges. Instead of addressing public concerns transparently, Reeves has remained evasive, further fueling speculation about who the real beneficiaries of these reforms might be. Meanwhile, calls for an urgent independent inquiry into her financial dealings are growing louder. A national backlash, protecting cash ISAs becomes a public movement. Amid the escalating crisis, a nationwide campaign advocating for the protection of cash ISAs has gained significant momentum. Financial analysts stress that cash ISAs have long served as a safe haven for British savers, particularly pensioners and low to middle income households who rely on them for financial security. Recent estimates indicate that around 6.1 million savings accounts are now earning more than £1,000 in annual interest, exceeding the personal savings allowance threshold for basic rate taxpayers. Where does this end? With this scandal showing no signs of slowing down, Rachel Reeves now faces an extraordinary crisis of confidence, one that could threaten her political future. As investors, financial institutions, and ordinary Britons demand urgent explanations, one critical question remains. Will a transparent investigation be launched to uncover the truth? Or will this scandal, like many before it, be quietly buried? As public pressure mounts, all eyes are now on the Labour government's next move, a move that could determine the financial stability of millions and the credibility of the party itself. London, special report. The financial scandal surrounding Rachel Reeves continues to intensify, as public outrage over her proposed modifications to cash ISA regulations reaches new heights. With lawsuits piling up and economic uncertainty deepening, the Labour government faces growing calls to abandon its controversial policy before irreversible damage is inflicted on Britain's financial stability. Public outrage and growing support for cash ISAs. Research indicates widespread public support for cash ISAs, with many Britons seeing them as a secure and essential savings vehicle amid rising financial instability. As economic anxieties grow, pressure is mounting on Reeves to reverse course before her policies trigger long-term financial distress for millions of savers and homeowners. In a letter to The Guardian, one reader voiced concerns that cash ISA holders, including themselves, were hesitant to transition to share-based investments due to a deep mistrust in financial institutions and government policies. The letter referenced past deregulation efforts by Margaret Thatcher and Nigel Lawson in 1986, which aimed to promote a shareholder democracy. While initially seen as a success, this strategy ultimately collapsed in 1990, leading to financial instability. The reader argued that despite claims from the investment industry that stocks and shares outperform cash in the long run, many savers remain unwilling to take such risks, particularly in light of increasing global economic uncertainty. They further defended the choice of millions of Britons to prioritize financial security through cash ISAs, rather than being coerced into volatile share-based instruments. Is Reeves hinting at lowering the ISA limit? While the government has not officially dismissed the possibility of reducing the cash ISA limit, sources suggest that Rachel Reeves' responses to inquiries have left the door open to such a move. With lawsuits accumulating and public frustration mounting, the question remains, how much longer can Reeves maintain this facade before the truth catches up to her? In response to the criticism, the Chancellor defended the existing £20,000 annual ISA limit, stating that it applied to both cash ISAs and stocks and shares ISAs. However, she also expressed a desire to encourage a stronger culture of retail investing in the UK, akin to the United States, with the aim of generating higher returns for savers and stimulating economic growth. Understanding the cash ISA system and Reeves' controversial stance. At present, UK consumers have two primary types of ISAs. Cash ISAs, a savings account where interest earned is tax-free. Stocks and shares ISAs, an investment account where returns are dependent on market performance. Savers currently have the flexibility to distribute their savings across different types of ISAs or invest solely in one. Under existing rules, individuals can deposit up to £20,000 annually into one or multiple ISAs, a figure that is already considered far more generous than it was historically. For nearly a decade, the cash ISA limit stood at just £3,000 per year before being increased in the early 2000s. This significant rise allowed savers to shield more of their money from tax liabilities, providing them with greater financial security. However, with Reeves now under intense scrutiny for her controversial economic policies and allegations of financial misconduct, the future of cash ISAs, and the financial security of millions of Britons, hangs in the balance. A bleak economic outlook, pressure on Reeves' fiscal plans intensifies. The controversy surrounding Reeves' policies coincides with an emerging fiscal crisis within the Labour government. Reports indicate that government finances fell short of official projections, intensifying scrutiny over Reeves' tax and spending strategies. The latest financial data revealed that the government surplus, the gap between tax revenues and public expenditure, amounted to £15.4 billion in January. While this figure is the highest ever recorded for that month in over 30 years, it remains significantly lower than the £20.5 billion forecast by the UK's official financial forecaster. This unexpected shortfall has reignited speculation that Rachel Reeves may be forced to either cut public spending or impose further tax hikes in the coming months to comply with her self-imposed economic rules. On Friday, the government reiterated that its so-called fiscal rules remained non-negotiable. Reeves has outlined two primary economic targets, which she claims are crucial for stabilizing the UK economy. However, her critics argue that these constraints are becoming increasingly difficult to maintain amid weak economic growth and rising borrowing costs. Upcoming economic forecast could determine Reeves' fate. The economic outlook for Britain remains uncertain, and the upcoming fiscal report could have major political ramifications for the Labour government. On March 26, the Office for Budget Responsibility, OBR, is set to release its latest assessment of the UK economy and public finances. This report will determine how much financial flexibility Reeves has in relation to her fiscal rules. In its previous assessment in October 2023, the OBR estimated that Reeves had £9.9 billion in headroom to meet her targets. However, sluggish economic growth and rising government borrowing costs have significantly eroded this financial cushion. This has prompted growing speculation that Reeves will be forced to take further action, either by cutting spending or raising taxes, to avoid breaching her own fiscal commitments. Is Labour's economic strategy collapsing? With cash ISAs at the center of a national controversy, surging public backlash, and looming fiscal dilemmas, Rachel Reeves faces an extraordinary political and economic crisis. Her insistence on maintaining fiscal discipline while simultaneously pursuing deeply unpopular tax policies has left many questioning whether her strategy is sustainable or even politically viable. Critics argue that if Reeves proceeds with drastic changes to ISA regulations, she risks alienating millions of middle-class voters who rely on tax-free savings for financial security. As pressure mounts and the March economic assessment looms, the question remains: will Rachel Reeves be forced into a humiliating U-turn on cash ISAs? Or will she double down on her controversial policies, regardless of the consequences for Britain's economy? With growing calls for a full investigation into her handling of tax policy and public finances, Reeves may soon find herself battling not only economic instability but also a crisis of trust among the very citizens she was elected to serve.